video as we are going through the shift. And as we all know, we are going through a shifting market. So what better time than to go through a book, highlight some key points, and try and take away as much as we can that we can apply into our businesses as investors. All right, so going through it in this chapter, we're talking about mindset. You guys ever wondered when you pick up a real estate investing book how the first 2-3 chapters are sometimes all about mindset? You start to kind of piece it together that maybe it counts for a lot, right? Which it does, and I'm always glad that they do, because real estate investing is a mental toughness game, and going through a shift can often be some of the biggest hurdles that we as investors have to face. So it's all about mindset. All right, so we're going to go through 5 quick points here. One is the mental shift, the 3 types of people that there are in a shifting market. So where does growth come from? Action shift, from I to P. The important question, what do I do right now, and who should be doing it? And then 5 is lead generation, lead conversion, going back to the basics. Okay, so first and foremost is the mental shift in the 3 types of people. So in the book, they talk that when a shift emerges in the market, there's typically 3 types of people. One is the pessimist, who's the doom and gloom, the world is falling, they shell up and they don't do anything. And it's a very pessimistic approach to anything that's going to be happening. Then on the flip side, you have the other person who feels that they're completely invincible and oblivious to the fact that there are things happening. They're saying, oh, don't worry, carry forward, business as usual, it's not a problem. And then last but not least, there's the third person who is realistic and understands that things are changing, they're adaptive, they can move and shake with the times as they're progressing. And as real estate investors, what's more important than being able to adapt, move, and shake, right? If we look at any sort of species in general, you have to be able to survival of the fittest, unfortunately speaking. And in a shifting market, those kind of things come to light. If you're not careful and not preparing for those kind of situations that take place in the market, then you could be in for some trouble. So it's not enough. Like, I would definitely say, it's better to be optimistic and keep pushing forward than pessimistic and just shelling in. But the key component here on step 1 is be realistic. There's a lot of things happening. There's a lot of uncertainty, but there's still things that you can do in your business every single day that can help you move forward. Okay? So where does growth come from? So in the book here, it's very interesting. So they say that growth comes from 3 places. One is clarity, priorities, and a focused action. So once again, when we're talking about the idea of mindset, we look at people who we think have had an amazing growth trajectory in their businesses. At the end of the day, they stick with these 3 points. Clarity, they're clear on what their goals are. They're clear on the objective. They're realistic, so they have clarity in the market and the shift that's taking place. Next, they know their priorities. So what do I have to do? What should I be doing right now? There's a lot of chaos. People are kind of running around with chickens with the heads cut off. What are my key priorities that I should be focusing on? And last is focused action. I always think focused action is like, I think about all the things I have on my plate. And if I was to take that whole thing and move forward, it's very cumbersome and it's hard to push that forward. And often when you focus on your one thing, you can create that spear tip. And that's what you can drive really forward. So if you're really focused, you can crush just about any business out there. So as we progress through this, if you consider, identifying the 3 types of people that there are, where does growth come from? So if we're someone who's realistic, we know that growth comes from those 3 points that we're talking about, having focused action. And then the action shift is the next part that they bring up in this. And what they're calling from I to P is from inspiration to perspiration. And I wrote that, I thought that was such a brilliant point there, because a lot of people, especially in the shift, there's this emotional down part, and then eventually people try to pull themselves out and they start to go, okay, we can do this. And I love that. That's an important process in all of this. But then it's also about, pulling up the sleeves, putting the elbows to the grindstone, and really pushing hard. So from inspiration to perspiration. I think that's such a valuable point because more often than not, like I find even myself, I get caught up in like the planning and all that kind of stuff and trying to make it all perfect so that I can then start moving forward. Sometimes it just takes a bunch of hard work, and I notice that the biggest strides that we end up taking in our business is literally when I pull up my sleeve and just say, okay, that's it. I'm not moving from this desk until I've hit X amount of contacts, or I've reached out to X amount of people, or I've gone and seen X amount of houses, or whatever the case may be, right? So, step four, the important question: what do I do right now? And it's an interesting point because what they talk about is actually to look at the roles. Look at the roles that in your business that you are responsible for. And so some people who are newer investors, this might be a little bit easier because once again, you're doing everything anyway. And so now you really have to identify what are like the 3, 4, 5 key aspects of my business that I should really be focusing on versus just kind of floating along. But now people who have larger businesses, like we have salaried staff on, things like that, we have to take a look at what do I do and effectively who does those things. And take a much closer look to make sure that the people that are doing those things are doing them right and that are pushing forward in the same direction, have the same attitude and the same, relentless goal achieving mindset that you do. Okay, so this is a perfect opportunity to refine systems to make sure that the people that you have in particular roles are doing exactly what they should be doing. And if not, sometimes it's just a lack of clarity. Sometimes when things are going well and the machine's moving, we're used to doing one thing over and over again or the handful of things. But now things are shifting. So we have to make sure that we're prepared. We have to make sure that our team is also prepared for that shift so that they can brace themselves through this path as well. And that's up to us as the leadership, right? So that brings us to the one fundamental aspect, key 5, that they say when you're talking about, as the leader of your organization, as the key investor, as the team leader in an investment group, a wholesale group, whatever the case may be, you should really come back as the owner or the head of that company, come back to these two, lead generation and lead conversion, because never has it been more important than to focus on those two key points. Lead generation is always, always, always the fundamental of any business out there. I don't care what business you could sell shoes or skateboards or it doesn't matter. If you don't have lead generation, you don't have leads coming in, then you don't have a business. So in our business is where are our opportunities coming from? What about private lenders, joint venture partners, whatever you're lead generating for, you need to come back to the basics to make sure that you're generating for more leads and that you're converting more leads. That's the fundamental basics of it. And often we have other resources like ISA group, like inside sales agents, or we have staff inside that are doing marketing, those kind of things. Those are the times where you need to get back and immerse yourself. And the reason why they say this is that in a shifting market, things are different, right? So we want to be able to get to the forefront of what the consumers are saying. So, for example, nowadays in real estate, you have a seller who's looking to sell a house, but he's like, I don't know if I want to sell, not in this climate. I'm not sure about property values right now. Or you have a joint venture partner who's like, I don't know if I want to be lending money right now because I'm uncertain on the economic climate. I don't know if the debt's going to be able to be serviced properly. These are the things, the conversations that we're having with people that we're touching base during our lead generation and our lead conversion process. You can start to see that if I wasn't at the forefront and someone else is back there just kind of pushing, business as usual, those objections wouldn't be handled, and at the end of the day, people would be, would be passing up on opportunities. All right. So a really interesting example actually is Sam Walton, owner of Walmart or the founder of Walmart. He used to go into each of his Walmart stores back when he was first building his empire, and he used to spend time at the cash. And while he was there, he'd be helping people check out their groceries and he'd be chatting with them, and he would learn what things in his stores and in that particular location, what was working, what wasn't working. He'd be talking with people and getting a feel for it, and it ended up being a huge advantage for him and how he really refined his business strategy. When we're talking about really turning to that spear tip, this is what we're talking about, right? So anyway, this is next chapter, mindset. Once again, The Shift by Gary Keller. Definitely suggest it. We're going to be going through the whole thing, so I hope that providing a Cole's Note version like this is helpful for you guys. But I am very interested in some dialogue, so if you guys have any questions or anything like that, please call, hit me up. There's the number right there, Facebook, whatever it may be. Happy to help, happy to chat. Cheers, stay safe.